Let's start with Julian Assange has been freed. We got the right segment up. There we go. Julian Assange has been freed. Have you guys followed this story at all over the last 15 odd years?
I've seen things on it. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not in total depth with it, mate, but I've seen a lot.
We were having a chat. I was more familiar with the Edward Snowden story and stuff. Yeah. So that
similar,
was
isn't it?
Yeah, similar. Yeah. So I haven't followed it completely, but obviously seen bits that's going on. Just saying how tough it must have been. He's been in Belmarsh, hasn't he?
Well, he's been in some sort of captivity for about 15 years, effectively.
Well, Belmarsh is in a horrendous...
that was the last 5 years, yeah.
Yeah, so I think the guy's going to really struggle with his mental health when he comes out.
Oh, definitely. I mean, he founded WikiLeaks in 2006, and he utilised a new technology then, which was PGP, Pretty Good Privacy. It's a sort of a mechanism where you can transmit information. So you could have whistleblowers inside the US government or the US military or any organisation really, send him information in a confidential way that he could then publish in WikiLeaks. And it was really in about 2010 when Chelsea Manning, and I'm not deliberately avoiding dead naming, I'd just forgotten what his original name was, but Chelsea Manning sent him a whole dump of classified information. And it included a lot of stuff on the way that the Afghan war was being fought, including the murder of about 18 civilians, including a couple of journalists. And it went into sort of diplomatic cables and stuff like that. And what it kind of did was it shattered the image that America had presented itself for a long time, because, you know, as I'm sure if you remember in the 80s and 90s, all the movies were, you know, America is the good guy and they hold themselves up to the most impeccable standards. And a lot of the time, the power makers, they want to do something, but because they're so squeaky clean, they can't. And they're always hamstringed by how good and virtuous they are. And what WikiLeaks did is basically just showed, no, they're just a standard bunch of bastards like every other government in the world throughout history. But it embarrassed them. It embarrassed Hillary Clinton. So they wanted to go after him, and eventually it got to the point where he knew that he was going to be arrested because they started drumming up fake rape charges on him. Basically, the US wanted to get hold of him, and he went into the Ecuadorian embassy, and he was sort of kept in this sort of, because the Ecuadorian embassy had this sort of this mini two-bed flat within it, and he was in there for about, must have been 8 years, 7-8 years, something like that. And
just for speaking the truth.
Yeah, exactly. And effectively what he did was what journalists used to do.
Yeah, I think this morning I wake up, and I seen it on Twitter last night, actually, at like 6, quite late on last night. Yeah. And you're thinking, you know, you wake up this morning and you're thinking, you know, I'm in a hotel, I don't watch TV nowadays, but when you're in a hotel, it's the only thing you've got. You think you would get it all over BBC or ITV, you know, Good Morning Britain and
right,
that.
Okay.
Small snippet, mate. Small snippet.
Really?
I was literally...
I never watch normal TV anymore.
I said, because I was in the hotel, they touched on it just briefly, but didn't go into depth.
Wow. Yeah.
Incredible.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. And all he did was he received information and then published it, and that's what journalists used to. It's not what journalists do anymore. No, these days, journalists, they just read out corporate press release and, you know,
or manipulated data.
Yeah, or pharma companies as well. We might get onto that as well. Yeah, that's the sort of thing they do.
Well, yeah, I've got an interesting one about the AstraZeneca clinical trial data.
Let's get into that in the next segment. Okay. Yeah.
I'm just like, I just cannot believe it's not been reported. Yes. I've spoken to journalists and I've been told why it's not been reported.
We can get into that.
Because they're mouthpieces. They're not. Yeah. They're wearing the skin suit of a profession that no longer exists.
Yeah.
But yeah, so anyway, Julian Assange, he's been in some sort of detention. Now, I'm just skimming over this because like John said, this news just came out last night.
I was expecting the phone call to say, look, John, we can't do it. We need to cover this topic. But just to say what Adam said, because we were talking it in the way down. We were talking about it in the way down, and his mental health, man. Like, that guy's mentally 23 hours in a cell. I'd imagine it was a padded room.
Yep.
For how long? 900? How many days was it?
Right, it was years.
I mean, this guy is going to be mentally unstable for a long time.
I remember reading about it at the time, and you got these stories of, they were trying to discredit him, but these stories about his weird behaviour in the Ecuadorian embassy. And it wasn't really until lockdowns that I realised, I'm going mental as well.
Yeah.
And he had been in there for about 4 times as long, and he didn't have an hour outside a day or anything like that.
I guess like this kind of goes to show you as well, but the power with the people standing up and never giving up on this man. Because if it wasn't, you know, I've seen his wife and I've seen the amount of people in London when they were doing the trial a few months ago. The amount of people, when it's all coordinated correctly, people can get justice, and they've never given up on this man. So it really goes to show you, when people stand up for the truth, we really can. You can really make a change.
Yeah, and for those watching on YouTube, make sure you come and watch our next segment, which we can't put on YouTube, but I'll be speaking to these guys about their experience of being silenced because of something that happened a couple of years ago. So, and obviously we can't cover that on YouTube, but it's such an important story. So do come and follow us on Lotus Eat Talk. You don't have to pay. You can sign up for a free account and watch the podcast there. And Josh will be covering this topic properly tomorrow, but I just wanted to sort of skim through this as it's sort of, you know, breaking news. Here we go. Here we got Assange being released from prison for the crime of embarrassing Hillary Clinton. So I think he's now heading back to Australia. So anyway, great news that he's out. For the first time, he'll be able to see his son. I think he's got 2 of them, 7 and 8.
Heartbreaking.
Yeah. I mean, he spent, whatever it was, 5 years in Belmarsh prison, like you said. That was in a 2 by 3 metre cell, 23 hours a day.
I think they leave the lights on 24/7.
Oh, right.
Yeah. So they're just completely disorientated. If you do your research on Belmarsh prison, you'll be horrified. Yeah, and it's not like he had a good time before that, because he was just in a very small flat in the Ecuadorian embassy as well. So pretty bad. The way he's got out is he's done a plea deal. Now, there's a lot of questions about why this was done at this time. For me, I think it's for a number of factors. I mean, one, at the Libertarian Convention, Trump hinted quite heavily that he would pardon Julian Assange. And if this had gone to trial, as it was expected to do, that's what we thought was going to happen, he would have been on the stand while there was a presidential election going on. Okay. So he would have been talking about all of this stuff, all the sort of dirty laundry of the US state, while Joe Biden's trying to get re-elected. So I reckon does
Joe Biden know he's trying to get re-elected? Does that man know what's going on?
It's unlikely. I mean, he would be learning a lot of the stuff like his own name for the first time. But yeah, I mean, the people who were controlling Biden would have been sort of deeply embarrassed by this. So I think they just took the calculation that he's going to get pardoned by Trump anyway. And Trump's going to win. So, and we don't want him on the stand during the election. So let's just give him this. And actually, it's quite smart from their point of view, because they got him to plead guilty to 1 charge. So they've set the precedent now that if you publish information that embarrasses the government, you can go to jail.
And was that a non-disclosure? NDA?
Not exactly, no, but I mean, he's been through so much that he probably just wants now to spend time with the family. So they probably think, look, this is out of the bag at this point. People have got the internet and they can use it, and they can use it to embarrass us. So we're just going to have to cut our losses. But at least we get the precedent set that if we want to, we can throw a journalist in jail, or people who actually do journalism, not the people who are paid to do journalism, but the people who actually do it for free. They've got that set. And the other thing is, of course, that pressure was growing. I mean, particularly in Australia, but I mean, there's lots of people. My mate Peter from What Bitcoin Did has done a number of podcasts with his wife, keeping this story alive. I mean, a whole bunch of people have kept pushing this one. So I guess they realised that this is not 2010 anymore. There's not like one website. They lost control of Twitter, so what are you going to do? Cut your losses and keep them off the stand during the election. So I think that's what it is. There's this. I don't think I'll be able to play it, but let me just play a few seconds and then I'll cut it short. So this is sort of drone footage or footage from the Apache helicopter that took out 18 guys. So. Can't play that, but you get the idea from what you're seeing there, that what happened here. So 18 guys and a couple of
I remember seeing the footage. I've seen it.
I've seen other ones as well.
Yeah.
And it just shattered the illusion that America are these, these whiter than white who are constantly hamstrung by their noble principles.
Let's be open and honest. It's not just America, is it? There's quite a few stories from the UK military as well.
Oh, there's all of them. No, it's not like, because we kind of got this thing going at the moment. Another story in the news at the moment, where basically Farage was saying, Putin's a bastard, but we did provoke him. It's like, well, yeah, all governments are comprised of a bunch of psychopaths. I mean, all of them throughout history, and it's not like they're all bad and we are good. It's they're all bad.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the point that he was making on that. Let's just listen to what he was saying himself. And this is something I think a lot of us appreciate now, but it is back in 2010. I mean, in 2010, I hadn't figured this out, but I've come to appreciate it now. What's really going on with these wars. Can we click into that and play that?
Because the goal is not to completely subjugate Afghanistan. The goal is to use Afghanistan to wash money out of the tax bases of the United States, out of the tax bases of European countries, through Afghanistan and back into the hands of a transnational security elite. That is the goal, i.e. the goal is to have an endless war, not a successful war.
Yeah, I mean that's essentially. I mean that was he was talking about Afghanistan there,
right?
But I mean you could apply it to modern wars as well. They're not designed to be won; they're designed to keep the money rolling, and and with these wars, well, I mean he's saying that the money is laundered through Afghanistan and then back to the country. I mean actually it doesn't even leave the country. So with all this Ukraine funding, the money goes directly from Congress to the defence contractors. There's no intimate step where it goes via Ukraine or something. The money just goes straight to the defence contractors and then it's sort of shipped over. So, I mean, it's a different war, but same story. And that's essentially what Julian Assange was exposing on all of that. The idea is this sort of continuous war footing on all of this stuff. This is also a clip worth playing. Let's listen to him here.
Nearly every war that has started in the past 50 years has been a result of media lies. The media could have stopped it. If they had searched deep enough, if they hadn't reprinted government propaganda, they could have stopped it. But what does that mean? Well, that means basically populations don't like wars. And populations have to be fooled into wars. Populations don't willingly and with open eyes go into a war. So if we have a good media environment, then we'll also have a peaceful environment.
Spot on there, aren't they? Yeah. See, I said this, I think a couple of weeks ago to Sonia Poulton. I was at a thing with Sonia Poulton. Before we had subtle corruption, now it's just blatant corruption all in front of our eyes. Yeah, so many different level of things now.
I wonder if it's becoming less subtle or we're just better at seeing it now. Like with social media, we can see what previously, because I mean, before it would have all been filtered through the newspapers, and so it would have gone through a journalist. So all you need to do is bamboozle a journalist and then read about it, a couple of days later. Whereas now with like the video clips and social media, you can see.
When was that said? When did they say that? Do you know?
Let's have a look if it says when he said it. I mean, it would have been around 2010, 2011.
So there was not really much alternative media back then, was there?
Yeah, I mean, it was just starting to begin. So, I mean, Sargon popped up, I think, in 2013, the guy who founded this place. And he was one of the very first. So, yeah, I mean, that was sort of all before that environment. And things like the Afghan war and the Iraq war, I mean, I at the time, I believed in them. I thought they were good things. Because I was sort of bought into the propaganda that the media pushes on all of this stuff. And it's only really when you start to engage with this kind of stuff, you realise that actually, no, it is just another setup.
Well, I mean, especially what's happened to us in the last 4 years now.
Yeah.
Things that I've seen in the past, I just question everything now. I've seen documentaries on certain people. Yeah. If I was believing, there's a... Yeah. I don't want to get into too much, because I don't want to muddy the waters. But with all these laws,
we get into your story next. But I certainly now see historic events completely differently. Like I used to look at historic events and think, how could they get a whole population of people to go along with these crimes?
Or certain leaders.
Yeah, and I don't think that anymore.
That's the way my thoughts go as well, mate.
Yeah. I mean, but yeah, we will come back to that one in the next segment. One of the chief things he did was upset this lovely lady, Killary Clinton, and this is a remarkable passage coming out of a meeting in the State Department. Basically, they're discussing WikiLeaks and how embarrassing this stuff is that's coming out, and Clinton just asks, "Well, can't we just drone this guy?" Now, initially, the other people in the room laughed politely, but then that laughter died off when they realised that she was actually serious. No, I want to drone this guy. No, the US state is not supposed to just kill people that are inconvenient. But
when she's talking like that, though, it makes you wonder.
Yeah,
how many others have been drones?
Well, I mean, Seth Rich springs to mind rather quickly, but yeah, I mean, there is. I mean, if you've ever looked at the list, there's a pretty long list of Clinton associates who have died unexpectedly.
I've seen some stuff. Yeah.
I mean, it's up there with being a Boeing whistleblower. We won't mention Seth Leaks today, but yeah. This is WikiLeaks. They've got their PGP on there. I mean, that if you've never seen PGP, that's worth looking at. So that is like one of the forerunner techs for Bitcoin. Right. So basically, it's an encryption method, and you've got a public key and a private key. So that's the public key. So basically, you can take a file of something that you've got from somewhere, some classified file, encrypt it with that public key, send it to WikiLeaks, and if that file is intercepted on the way, it can't be decrypted unless you've got the private key on the other side that WikiLeaks have. So so there's a mechanism for people to then start uploading private information. So I mean, if you ever wanted to get into something like Bitcoin, going via PGP is a good starting place, because it is like one of the forerunner techs that sort of built into it.
Something I can't trust either, man. Like, who invented Bitcoin? You know, like we don't even know who invented the thing. You know, so it's a hard one.
Yeah, I think I've got an idea, but I'll send you the Brokenomics episode that I did on it. Yeah. What else we got? Oh yeah, this is So this is also extraordinary on the point of getting people killed. Let's see if I can go down. Yeah, so this is Tucker being interviewed on Joe Rogan, and he's talking about when he started talking about the JFK assassination, about how he got a phone call from the CIA to say, "Yeah, stop talking about this." But he also goes on to talk about Julian Assange. So can we click into this and play this from the beginning?
They committed a crime. He's threatening me. He's in my car. With my dog sitting next to me, I'll never forget this. And I said, are you really saying that to reveal that the U.S. government had a role in the murder of a democratically elected president, to say that out loud, that's the crime? What about the actual crime, which is murdering a president? Like, you're covering up for that, Mike Pompeo.
What did he say to that?
He had no response at all. And so Mike Pompeo is the one who pressed Trump to keep those documents secret. And so it's like, what's crazy to me is not just that Pompeo did that. I think Pompeo is a really sinister person and a criminal. I think that because the facts suggest that. He was caught. Yahoo News, Mike Isikoff wrote a long piece on this several years ago. His employees went to Mike Isikoff and said, hey, Mike Pompeo is plotting to murder Julian Assange, who's never even been charged with a crime in the United States, as CIA director. That's illegal. You're not allowed. Federal employees are not allowed to just kill people they don't like, okay? Just to set the baseline here. So that's who Mike Pompeo is. But he somehow intimidated Trump into not releasing this. Well, okay, that's all bad, right? I think it's criminal behavior.
So yeah, that's a brief summary of Assange for those who might have forgotten or weren't that close to the story. Josh will be getting into it more tomorrow, so check that one out.
Hi folks, thanks for watching. You can watch the entire podcast, The Lotus Eaters, live at 1 p.m. only on lotuseaters.com. And while you're there, you could sign up for £5 a month if you want to support us, help us keep the lights on, because of course we're demonetized on YouTube. And you can watch Dan Tubbs' amazing Brokenomics series, where he breaks down everything economic and various other things beside. It's excellent stuff, and we appreciate all the support. Thanks very much.